there. Got a super special video for you today. I had the pleasure of going to visit Vera and Gordon at 10 Mothers Farm. They're in Cedar Grove, North Carolina, which is about 40 to 45 minutes from me. It's just north of Hillsboro. And man, that place is unbelievable, and they are just awesome people. And so there's a lot of cool stuff in this one, and they share their story with how they started on this new land. They've been farming on leased land for a while, and how they decided to lay out the farm and some of the awesome systems they have in place. And they had a really unique story, which they'll tell you about here, but they bought the land with a bunch of friends and they're sharing it. It's super, super cool. And they run a very large CSA program on very small acreage, and it is incredible. So there's a lot of great stuff in this one. There's actually going to be two videos. The first one, which is the one right now, is going to be all about their tour. It'll be a tour of their farm and everything. And the second video will be about getting new wells on new land and the struggles they had with that and how they set up the irrigation system. So hope you enjoy this.
I'm Vera.
I'm Gordon.
And we run 10 Mothers Farm here in Cedar Grove, North Carolina. We are wrapping up our 4th year in business, which is crazy. It feels, I think, this is our first year on this property, and so in some ways it sort of feels like we're starting the farm all over again. I guess we're both sort of city kids. We both grew up in town, and we met 12 years ago. And our first conversation was about our desire to start a farm. And we kind of just sat on that dream for a bit. We had normal job. I guess I taught gardening, so it was related. And
I had a normal office job.
And we lived in San Francisco and then New York City. And then finally in 2012, we were like, okay, if we're gonna do this, we gotta just do this. And we left the city, left our jobs, and went and worked for some really great farmers to learn.
And we moved down to North Carolina. We worked on a great farm here for about 2 years, and then we set out on our own. We started by leasing land because we didn't remotely have the ability to buy land at that point. And we also didn't know how to get started. So we were lucky to find a really good lease, an arrangement that already had some infrastructure on it. So we didn't have to build a walk-in cooler, we didn't have to put up a deer fence. We were able to just kind of show up and get started farming. And farmed there for 3 years. We started out doing a CSA and still do CSA. That's by far the main outlet that we do. We started our first year with 30 CSA members, and then we went up to 54 our second year, and then up to 70 our third year. And now our first year on this land, our 4th season, we have 124.
Wow, that's amazing, guys.
Well, we were able to do that because we brought on our friend Luke this year full time. So that was like a huge jump for us, for sure.
Now the 3 of us.
So during the 3 years that we were farming on rented land, we were looking for land of our own. And it turns out it's really hard to find good farmland. I think we wanted to be close enough to where we sell, which is sort of the Durham, Chapel Hill area. And there's a lot of development pressure. Land isn't cheap. And then
things sell, within like half a day.
Yeah, and around here there's just like not a lot of good farmland, and the good farmland is what is also good for development, because it perks, which is another topic. But it means that a lot of the land that we looked at was just really not suitable for farming, and so we kept looking. We also had this sort of crazy dream to buy land with friends. I think in part because we are not from the country, we didn't really want to like move out to the country by ourselves. And so we had been talking to a few friends about looking for land, and we'd been looking at land with them. But as you can imagine, it's sort of complicated to like, A, find land that fits everybody's needs, and B, to like time it well and make sure that you can like put in an offer quickly.
We thought it, and then there's the whole financial aspect of it. We'd basically given up on the idea of being able to buy land with people, even though it felt like it was the best way to go.
Why do you feel that was the way you wanted to take this?
Well, just because, so we wouldn't be out here totally isolated on our own, and so we would have, neighbors and a community from the start where we can help each other out. We can help, help build up each other's farms, be there to babysit each other's kids.
And it's similar to why we brought, like, our friend Luke has been working with us this year with the hopes that there might be a partnership in the future. And I think it's similar to why we wanted to buy land with friends. I think we just sort of, collaboration, whether in the business of our farm or in the form of really close neighbors, is hard, but we feel like the benefits outweigh the challenges.
Because farming on your own is harder. you know, there's just so much work involved in farming, and you know, going out and being a pioneer and like turning a raw piece of land into a thriving farm is an incredible amount of work, and it's a lot for 1 or 2 people to bear. So we felt like the best path to not burn out was going to be to figure out a way to do it collaboratively.
So
talk about this property here. I've been walking around with you guys a little bit, but it's a pretty unique setup, and you guys are telling me there's like a division, like half in the woods and then half in the field here, and it's broken up between you and your friends.
Yeah, so we've got the whole property that we bought last year is 26 acres total. It had been in hay. It had been a farm way back in the day probably, and then for the last maybe 50 years, it had just been hayed. And so it was a big pasture. It was all that tall grass in the distance. That's what the land looked like last year when we bought it. We had been really lucky. This property had already been subdivided. Basically, the previous owner had intended to turn it into like a bunch of country mansions all lined up next to each other. And he went through the process of getting it subdivided, and then maybe something went awry and he put it on the market without having developed it. And so as soon as it was on the market and we heard about it, we were like, oh man, this is the place where we can buy land with our friends because it's already subdivided. We'll each get our own parcel. It's really like clean and neat to work that out financially. And so when we heard about it, within 2 hours, we had all of our friends out here to check it out. And by the end of the day, we put an offer, and we were really lucky to get the property.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of this other land is not developed at all yet, and they're going to be moving in and doing some stuff soon, or?
Yeah, so it's 5 parcels. One of the parcels up top we own as a group, so that is to be determined what we want to do with it. And then we each have our own parcel. We each plan on building our own houses out here. One of our neighbors directly next to us, she is hoping to start a flower farm. And the 2 other folks will have gardens. So I think so far it's great, and we're hoping that we'll be able to like share some resources, especially for the flower farmer.
So how big is your parcel, and how much is like actually under cultivation right now?
So what basically where the farm is sits on 3 acres of open land that we have here. We also own 3 acres of woods, which we haven't done much with yet, and who knows what we'll do with eventually. But we've got these 3 acres open. We don't plan to cut down woods, so this is the land that we have to farm. And in terms of how we're using it, if you just talk about field blocks like bed space plus aisles, you get really specific like that. We're farming about 3/4 of an acre.
Most people would probably say an acre.
Yeah, but then there's space taken up with the driveway and stuff like that. I'm not counting that.
Sure.
And on that, we're growing for 124 CSA members, and some restaurant sales as well.
6 restaurants or so every week.
Cool. Well, let's take a walk around and check out some stuff.
Great.
Yeah. So I think it's good to start imagining this space as just a big field, because that's what this was for the last 50 years until we bought it. And to start last year, we were still farming at our rented place. We put out tarps a year ago, and we couldn't really move the farm out here until right around New Year's, and we started as quickly as we possibly could in the middle of the winter, setting up, turning the field into a farm.
Yep.
And one of the first things we wanted to do was put in some perennial herbs, because we had been on rented land and had been holding off on perennials. So we wanted to put these in close to where our future house is going to be, so that we can pick herbs quickly from our house.
And it's pretty too.
Yeah. And this was an experiment. We sheet mulched with cardboard that you can kind of see peeking out here. Just because we knew these were going to be here for a long time, and we didn't want to weed them.
Yeah.
And it's worked.
Yeah, it's worked really well.
Yeah.
The cardboard has been almost 100% effective at getting rid of all annual weeds. Some perennials will push their way up through it. But
so was that tarped
really
before?
Easy. This had been tarps, but only for a month maybe. Okay. It was just sod when we put the tarp down too.
Okay, so. And then cardboard, and then?
Cardboard, and then about 3 inches of compost on top.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, and we'll plant, we've got mint, thyme, oregano, chives. We plan on putting in maybe some sage or rosemary.
And then all of the other field blocks have had 2 to 6 crops this year. And this is the first year they've been in production. So we've got some turnips, we've got spinach here, radishes, baby kale.
These
more
were
radishes.
carrots in the spring.
And we've got a few carrots here under insect netting just to keep grasshoppers off. We, this summer, had really, really great carrot germination. We were really excited about it because it's hard to germinate carrots in hot weather. And every time we sowed a nice bed of carrots and they came up and they're this high and we were really excited about it, over the course of like 2 nights, grasshoppers came and mowed down every single carrot seedling. So we said, okay, that's fine. We'll just re-sow it. We'll try again. And they mowed it down again. And we even tried one more time. And we did manage to save some carrots through a mix of shade cloth and insect netting and so on. So there are a couple carrots for the winter under this insect netting.
Cool. What's going on this side over here?
This was, Luke is really into like corn for flour. And so he grew an experimental corn crop here and then pulled it out and he sowed cover crop. We're trying to figure out how to work some cover cropping into our system.
Yeah, because we're so small and so intensive, it's really hard to figure out how to work in cover crops because in order to make a living, we kind of want every bed to always be in a cash crop. And we use a lot of compost for our fertility and we have access to good compost here, so that feels all right. But you know, we're interested in the benefits of cover crops and interested in figuring out ways to incorporate them in our system. So we've done a little bit of experimenting with cover crops that we roll or crimp and then tarp and then either rake aside or plant through it. And this is oats and peas for the winter, and we'll see how it does and see how we manage it in the spring.
So you guys are 3/4 to an acre-ish, and you're doing a pretty big CSA, and I think that's pretty uncommon to be doing a CSA in that size of a farm because you have to grow so many different kinds of crops. And walking around here, I definitely see that. Can you guys tell me more about some of the stuff you're growing here? I mean, it's just beautiful, but what do you got? What's going on in this block
We've
here?
got spiggery yellow. These are Japanese turnips. We've got cabbage, which is actually going to go in our this winter we're doing our first ever winter CSA.
These are gorgeous.
We've grown in the winter in the past and sold to restaurants, but this year we're starting with like a 40-person winter CSA. So that'll be exciting, fingers crossed.
We've actually got rutabaga, which is very unusual for a farm our size, but we wanted another storage crop that we would have kind of as a backup and reserve for the winter CSA.
Okay.
And then fennel, which is going in boxes this week, followed by some parsley and cilantro and scallions. And then behind that we've got winter radishes, so different types of daikons, which will go in boxes in the fall, but then we'll also save some topped in the cooler for winter CSA.
Okay.
And then in the far end, you can see those are all chicories. We've got escarole and sugarloaf.
Yeah, and I mean, it is unusual for a farm of our size to do a CSA because you do have to grow so many crops. I mean, I think we grow 50 to 60 different crops every year if you count the winter crops as well, which is a lot to manage. And not all of those crops are the kind of high-performing, high-yield crops that you associate with a farm of this size.
That's why it's tricky for a small farm to do CSAs.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there are a lot of crops. You know, there's some things that we just don't grow for CSA. We don't grow potatoes. We don't grow sweet corn. We usually don't grow winter squash and things like that because those ones they really don't make sense on this scale. They take up too much space and they don't yield enough for each square foot like we need. You know, that's really important to us. But we do some of the ones that are kind of more on the border that other farms wouldn't do, like broccoli, and we have a little bit of cauliflower, and we do peppers and eggplants and stuff like that. And we have most of those been able to figure out ways to make them profitable on this space in a way that meets our target. But you know, we're not making as much money as if we had every single bed planted to Salanova lettuce, but we feel like it's worth it to us because the CSA is so good for us. Mm-hmm. The CSA, you know, it's a great channel for selling our produce, and it's a guaranteed sale. You know, before we plant every crop, it's already been sold, and that just, you know, that's like the best way to do business. And so we feel like the CSA is worth it, even if it means we have to grow a lot more crops than we usually would.
I mean, it's also somewhat of like how we want our farm to be. I think that we would not. I mean, we do this in large part because we love to eat and cook, and these are all the things that we like to eat and cook. And I think we'd be really sad if our farm was just, I mean, we love salad, don't get me wrong, but if our farm was just salad, we wouldn't be able, you know, we'd have to go buy other vegetables. That would be really sad.
Yeah.
So you guys have quite a few tunnels here. I'm just jealous, personally. I think tunnels are so versatile for so many reasons. But one of the things you guys are focusing on now is you're starting a winter CSA this year?
Yeah,
Is this going to be a big part of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hoping. I mean,
one of the things that we talk about a lot being in North Carolina, I'm sure you feel this way, the summer is getting hotter and it's really challenging to grow a lot of things in the height of the summer. And so I think that, we also worked on Elliott Coleman's farm, so I think we came from a place of wanting to grow through the winter. But it turns out that in North Carolina, it gets quite cold here. It's not like we can just like easy breezy grow through the winter without having some serious infrastructure. But I think we're hoping to move towards growing more in the fall, winter, and spring, and moving away from growing as much during the height of the summer. So I think starting the winter CSA is sort of in hopes of getting us enough income to be able to start pulling back a tiny bit from high summer growing.
Yeah, and it just spreads our cash flow and our workload out over the course of the whole year, so that we're not burning ourselves out in just the height of the season, and instead we can try to have more even pace the whole year round.
And I find for myself that winter growing is just very relaxing.
Yeah. Things just a lot less stressful.
Yeah, things don't have to come out right when they have to come out. Yep. There's a lot more wiggle room with it.
Yeah, the pace is a little better.
And if you have enough houses, the worst part of winter growing is row cover and sandbags. So we're hoping to move away from row cover and sandbags and have more tunnel space.
Yeah, it's amazing the difference these make. Like this is a really simple caterpillar tunnel from Farmer's Friend. If you have experience building them, 2 people can put one of these up in a day, basically. And it's surprising the difference they make in the wintertime. Like in terms of the air temperature in here on a cold night, it's probably only a degree or 2 warmer. But in terms of the soil temperature in here after a whole day of, heating up, it's way different, and the plants just do so much better here in the wintertime.
Have you tried the sort of Elliott Coleman style with the row cover inside the tunnel?
Yeah, we use row cover in here most of the winter. There'll be row cover on cold nights over it, and something about the combination of the two, row cover plus tunnel, makes just an extraordinary difference.
I agree. I did that last winter. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, we'll have lettuce that survives. It's outside, it's 5 degrees, and there's lettuce inside that's doing fine in there.
Yep, I found the same thing.
And then in the summer we can put shade over this. And
have you done that? Did you do that this summer?
We did that for our lettuce. We do a lot of tunnel lettuce. So
tons of versatility here with the tunnels. You can use them in the winter, obviously. In the summer, you can put shade cloth on them. And I see you guys have basically like a big scissor door here to keep this wide open for keeping it nice and cool in there.
Yep.
Yeah, really, the trick in the summer is getting enough ventilation in these, and having the end walls totally wide open like this really gets the maximum ventilation.
I agree. Do you guys move these tunnels at all? I know they can be moved.
They can be. We don't plan to move them, but if we wanted to, it would be pretty simple to do that.
And we moved those from our old farm, so.
Right.
Yeah, we did disassemble them and move them here.
A pain in the neck, but
the previous land.
It's possible.
Cool. Let's go check out your wash pack.
Great.
So we're inside your main tunnel here, and this is just such a cool space. You guys have thought this out really well. Can you tell me a little bit about the size of the tunnel and how you have it broken up and what's going on in here?
Yeah, to start, I guess, when we bought the land and we were trying to kind of create the layout of the farm, we went back and forth between what our options were for wash pack, and should we build a barn right away? And then when we thought about the budget and everything, building an actual building felt not possible, and so we were like, it was somewhat inspired by our time at Four Season Farm, because they have their wash pack inside of a hoop house. But we were like, that was in Maine, it's hotter in North Carolina, but we just decided to go for it anyway. So
this is a 30 by 100 foot tunnel. We got it from Tunnel Vision Hoops. We were really happy with it. We really like working with Tunnel Vision Hoops. It's 100 feet long, so we divided up the first quarter, or the first 25 feet is where we do the wash pack right here. After that, we've got 25 feet where we do that's like our propagation, our greenhouse nursery where we start all our seeds. And then the last 50 feet is production. And that way, we've got three things in here, multifunctional all at once, but also we're installing a heater in here because we need the heater for the nursery, and also so that we're not freezing when we're washing and packing stuff in the wintertime. And so, so long as we're putting a heater in here, that meant we could also have that production space in the back where we'll be able to have heated stuff to get an early start on greens and maybe even tomatoes
just
in
heated
February.
To we're not going to heat a lot. It'll be to keep it above freezing.
Okay, so let's show me some of your wash pack here. I love how big and open this is. Looks like you can get a lot of people working here at once, or you can process a lot of produce through here.
Yeah, so we come in, harvest totes get brought in here. We've got 2 dunk tanks that are just livestock tanks converted into big sinks where we can dunk and we can wash stuff. Things that are greens get, with this fishing net they get scooped out, put into these. This gets spun dry in this washing machine converted to a spin dryer. We've got spray tables on either side, and then we've got drying racks. And then you can just turn around right here, and we've got these stainless steel tables where we do bagging stuff and sorting and packing for orders and things like that.
And then things go right into our cooler.
Okay, so the cooler is also in here for right now.
Yeah. We already feel like we kind of need a second cooler, but this one is good for now. I mean, eventually the hope is that we will be able to build a barn right out here. And then the wash pack and the coolers would move into the barn, and this space would just become like greenhouse space. So this is where we start our seeds. This is our potting mix, our trays. We sow our seeds here. These are our makeshift greenhouse tables for now, till we can afford something better. Yeah, this space gets totally full during some parts of the year.
And then the back of the tunnel, we've got 8 50-foot beds, so basically one field block this way. And in the summer, this is where we had our main tomato crop. You know, we had heirloom tomatoes and red tomatoes strung up trellis to the top. So we were doing, string trellising and had tomatoes in here. We had 30% shade cloth over the entire tunnel. Because that helped keep things cool, especially for propagation here, but it actually helped the tomatoes as well, that 30% shade.
And then additionally, we have a second shade cloth that's over the wash pack all the time.
So in the summertime, we've got 2 shade cloths over the wash pack, so it's actually 90% shade. In the wintertime, we've got 60% shade over the wash pack and just no shade for this production area. And the tomatoes came out in August. We immediately turned it over to some greens and herbs, which we got 1 to 2 harvests off for the fall, and now we're starting to move these out and get ready to plant this for winter crops.
Wow, what an awesome use of this tunnel. You guys, I feel like every inch of this is just being like eked out, but it doesn't feel cramped. You guys can get a lot of work done in here.
Yeah.
And,
it's definitely like the mothership of the farm for now until we have a barn.
All right, but you guys have another tunnel. It looks like you guys are starting to set up over here.
Yep.
Okay. You don't have to talk too much about it, but is this going to be the same basic tunnel as this?
The same and even simpler, because it won't have a lot of the bells and whistles that we have in here.
So that's just going to be like in-ground growing?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it'll be 30 by 100-foot tunnels, so we can fit 16 beds in there.
Okay.
And we'll have that built hopefully by the end of the year.
That's awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. You have such a beautiful farm, and you guys are just awesome people. So thanks for having me today. And if people want to follow along with what you're doing and get in touch with you guys about your CSA, can you just let everybody know? And I'll leave links for whatever I can below too.
Yeah, I mean, our website is 10mothersfarm.com. All the information about the CSA is on there. And also if you want to be on the wait list for next year, they can join on the website. And then I guess just keeping up with our progress on the farm on Instagram we post, and on Facebook. But on Instagram, it's at 10 Mothers Farm.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
And one more thing before you go. Where does 10 Mothers come from?
Oh, good question.
There's an old saying that garlic is as good as 10 mothers.
Yeah, and we like growing garlic and
Okay.
eating it.
Okay,
Yeah, it
awesome.
means, food is medicine. It'll take care of you.
All right, thanks guys.
Thank you.